Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from RAU'S IAS Study Circle. Welcome to the daily prelims practice from The Hindu and the Indian Express. But before starting today's discussion, let us look at a very important announcement.
Hello students, there is an announcement for you regarding the optional classes which we at RAU'S IAS are starting at Bengaluru and New Delhi Center. The optional paper of Public Administration will be taken up by Anubhav Sharma sir at the Bengaluru campus on 26 September from 3:30 pm. For the history optional subject, orientation class at the Bengaluru campus will be taken up by Parampreet Singh sir on 27th of September from 3:30 pm. And the orientation for geography as an optional subject will be taken up by Indrajit Bariyar sir on 27th September from 6 pm. So these three subjects will be taken up at Bengaluru Center. Shobik Sen sir will take up the optional classes for Psychology optional at New Delhi on 28th of September from 3:30 pm. And this will be followed up by the orientation class of Sociology by Dr. Surendra Singh sir on 28th of September from 6 pm onwards. On 29th September, the orientation class will be taken up for PSIR optional by Rahul Puri sir from 3:30 pm. Whereas on the same day, that is on 29th September from 6 pm onwards, orientation classes for the history optional will be taken up by Kritika ma'am and Mathimaran Raju sir. Next, on 30th of September, the orientation class for public administration will be taken up by Dr. V.K. Kaushik sir from 3:30 pm, which will be followed up by the orientation class for geography optional at New Delhi campus from 6 pm on 30th of September by Vineet Thaplu sir. Now these orientation classes will be conducted both online and also in the offline mode. And these classes you can interact with your teachers about the optional subjects, the nature of questions asked, and also the syllabus provided by UPSC.
The first question in today's discussion is related to a recent observation by the Supreme Court regarding the preventive detention in the fundamental rights. In this, the Supreme Court has said that the preventive detention is a serious invasion of personal liberty. In this context, if you look at the previous year question papers, UPSC has regularly asked questions related to fundamental rights in the Indian polity. In this line, in the year 2020, this question was related to right to equality, which is one of the fundamental rights. And that is why we need to be aware of the basics of the fundamental rights from the prelims examination perspective. So in this practice question that you see on your screen, it is related to preventive detention, which is provided for in the fundamental rights in the Article 22 of the Indian Constitution. Now, if you look at this question closely, it requires us to identify the incorrect statements here. Now, in this line, what we have to do is we have to first identify the incorrect statements and accordingly find an option which has both the incorrect statements in it. So if you look at the first statement, it reads the protection against the preventive detention under the second part of Article 22 is available to citizens of India only. This is incorrect because it is available to both citizens as well as foreigners. There is no restriction that it will be available only to the citizens of India. Further, if you look at the statement 3, it reads that as per Article 22, detention of a person under preventive detention cannot exceed 3 months under any circumstance. So the word any circumstance here is very crucial to identify if this statement is correct or not. In this, if you closely read the provisions of the Article 22, it authorizes the Parliament to prescribe the circumstances and the classes of cases in which the person can be detained for more than 3 months under a preventive detention law without obtaining the opinion of an advisory board. And that is why this third statement is also incorrect, because the Parliament has the power to increase the preventive detention which can exceed more than 3 months. So it is wrong that the preventive detention cannot be exceeded beyond 3 months under any circumstances. But if you look at the second statement, it reads that the Constitution has divided the legislative power about preventive detention between the Parliament and the state legislature. This statement is correct here. Now in this question, we were required to identify the incorrect ones. So which all statements are incorrect? The statement 1 and the statement 3 are incorrect here. And that is why the only option that we are left with here is C, that is both the statements 1 and the statement 3 are incorrect here. Now you have to be very cautious while solving a question which requires us to identify the incorrect statements. The second question is related to China's withdrawal of a proposal against the AUKUS military partnership in the Indo-Pacific against the nuclear submarine plan at the International Atomic Energy Agency. In this line, you might be aware that AUKUS was formulated last year and a question was asked in the mains examination related to the AUKUS. However, in the previous years, UPSC has been asking questions related to IAEA safeguards. So, in the year 2018, a question was asked related to IAEA safeguards, that is, International Atomic Energy Agency safeguards. Now, in this line, if you look at this practice question, the first statement reads that the ratification of Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT) is a precondition for the membership of IAEA. Now, there is no such condition to become a member of the IAEA, and that is why the first statement here is incorrect. In this regard, if you look at the second statement, it reads the IAEA concludes voluntary offer safeguard agreements with the nuclear weapon states which are parties to the NPT. In this regard, you should note that the NPT treaty recognizes those states as the nuclear weapon states which had detonated a nuclear explosive device prior to 1967 or 1st January 1967. And that is why there are only 5 nuclear weapon states which have been recognized as nuclear weapon states by the NPT treaty. And these include all of the P5 members: Russia, China, UK, France, and United States of America. In this regard, the IAEA concludes 3 types of safeguard agreements. The first is the comprehensive safeguards, which is agreed upon by the non-nuclear weapon states which are party to the NPT. The second are the voluntary offer safeguards, which are signed by the nuclear weapon states which are parties to the NPT. And third are item-specific safeguards, which are signed by non-NPT states, that is, those countries which are not the member or who have not accepted the NPT treaty. And that is why this second statement is correct. So the correct answer that comes out is B, that is 2 only. The next question is related to Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. And in this, the Archaeological Survey of India has found the remains of Buddhism related sites. Now in this, we are not taking up a question from the ancient history related to this Buddhist site because it is yet to be concretized in the future. However, we are going to look at this national park from the environment perspective. In this regard, if you look at the question that was asked in 2020, it was about a national park which is well known for the conservation of a subspecies of Indian swamp deer, that is Barasingha. In this, the correct answer was Kanha National Park. So in this regard, this practice question on your screen talks about the Gaur reintroduction program. Now, Gaur is an Indian bison which is found in different parts of India. However, in one of the tiger reserves or national park, the Gaurs had died back in 2012 because of a disease and they were vanished from that particular protected area. So in this regard, the Gaur reintroduction program has been carried out in which of the following? So in this regard, it was carried out in the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. So the correct answer is B here. The next question is related to an article in the Hindu newspaper which reads, Iran vows no pause in attacks on Kurds. So in this regard, if you look at the previous year question papers, UPSC has been asking questions related to certain important areas that are mentioned in the news. In this regard, in 2022, a question was asked related to Levant region. So in this article, as we have read that it is related to Kurds. So in the Kurd region, a Kurdistan movement or a separatist movement is going on. So the practice question reads, Kurdistan, which is sometimes seen in the news, is related to which of the following? In this regard, you should be aware that the Kurdistan is basically comprised of a region which includes territories from Turkey, Syria, Iraq, some parts of Iran as well as Armenia. And this Kurdistan region is inhabited by ethnic Kurds. And that is why this is related to a separatist movement that is going on in Turkey. So the correct answer here is D. The last question for today is from the Hindu newspapers, page number 1, which is related to the Reserve Bank of India's decision to increase or raise the repo rate by 50 basis points. In this regard, UPSC in the previous year question papers has consistently asked questions related to monetary policy of India. In this regard, in the year 2020, a question was asked related to the impact of RBI's expansionist monetary policy. And that is why this practice question is related to the Monetary Policy Committee. So the question reads, which among the following statement is incorrect with respect to the Monetary Policy Committee? That is, we have to identify which of these 4 statements is incorrect. Now, as we have to identify the incorrect statements, we will have to carefully look at all the 4 options that are provided here. So if you look at the first statement, it reads the Monetary Policy Committee has been set up as a statutory body based upon the recommendations of Urjit Patel Committee. Now this statement here is correct because it was created based on the recommendations of the Urjit Patel Committee and it was constituted under the Reserve Bank of India Act of 1934, and that is why it is a statutory body. So the first option here is ruled out because this is a correct statement and we have to identify the incorrect one. Then if you look at the second statement, it reads the Monetary Policy Committee has 6 members and the decisions are taken based upon majority, which is also a correct statement. However, we have to identify the incorrect statement, that is why the option B is also incorrect. And if you look at this fourth statement, it reads the members of the Monetary Policy Committee are appointed for a period of 4 years. This statement is also correct and that is why this statement is incorrect in the context of the requirement of the question. Then if you look at the statement C, it reads the decisions of the Monetary Policy Committee are not binding on the Reserve Bank of India. However, if you study closely about the details and the way in which the Monetary Policy Committee functions, the decisions of the committee would be binding on the Reserve Bank of India. And that is why this statement is incorrect and hence it is the correct answer in the context of the requirement of incorrect statement in the question. This simply means that the only incorrect statement amongst these 4 options is option C. So again, it needs to be emphasized that you got to look at the questions which requires you to identify incorrect statements very carefully. This is because these are some of those options which have high probability of being incorrect in the real examination, because you might get confused with this term correct and incorrect at times. With this, we conclude today's discussion. Stay tuned for more such videos.